Reports that there is no evidence of a direct link between Baghdad and some of these terrorist organizations.
There are known knowns. There are things we know. We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things we do not know. But there are also unknown unknowns. The ones we don't know, we don't know.
Excuse me, but is this an unknown unknown?
I'm not.
Several unknowns, and I'm just wondering.
I'm not going to say which it is.
But Mr. Secretary,
I'm right here. I'm right here.
In the run-up to the war in Iraq, the failure of mainstream news organizations to raise legitimate questions about the government's rush to war was compounded by the network's deliberate decision to stress military perspectives before any fighting had even begun.
We've got generals, and if you ask them about the prospects for war with Iraq, they think it is almost certain.
CNN's use of retired generals as supposedly independent experts reinforced a decidedly military mindset, even as serious questions remained about the wisdom and necessity of going to war.
Les journalistes accusent souvent le gouvernement d'être la cause qui les empêche de faire leur travail de façon indépendante. Mais personne n'oblige les grandes chaînes comme CNN à diffuser les commentaires de généraux et amiraux à la retraite. Un haut dirigeant de CNN, Ison Jordan, s'est vanté à l'antenne d'avoir été reçu au Pentagone où il avait montré une liste d'éventuels commentateurs militaires sur sa chaîne. Il a même demandé au département de la Défense d'approuver la collaboration des personnes sur la liste.
Well, I think it's important to have experts explain the war and to describe the military hardware, describe the tactics, talk about the strategy behind the conflict. I went to the Pentagon myself several times before the war started, met with important people there and said, for instance, at CNN, here are the generals we're thinking of retaining to advise us on the air and off about the war, and we got a big thumbs up on all of them. That was important.
Il n'avait aucune intention de le cacher. Il voulait dire lui-même aux Américains sur sa propre chaîne, « Regardez, nous jouons le jeu. Nous sommes peut-être un média, mais nous sommes du même côté et sur la même page que le Pentagone. » Cela contredit directement l'idée d'une presse indépendante. Cela suggère aussi que les Américains ont de fortes tendances à contourner la presse quand les États-Unis sont impliqués dans une guerre fondée sur le mensonge.
In 1964, President Lyndon Johnson falsely claimed that an attack on U.S. gunships by North Vietnamese forces in the Gulf of Tonkin gave him no choice but to escalate the war in Vietnam.
Renewed hostile actions against United States ships on the high seas in the Gulf of Tonkin have today required me to order the military forces of the United States to take action in reply.
Régulièrement, la version officielle est soit un mensonge, une duperie ou une vérité partielle qui omet les éléments importants.
In international waters in the Gulf of Tonkin, destroyers of the United States Navy are assigned routine patrols from time to time. Sunday, August the 2nd, 1964, the destroyer Maddox was on such a patrol. Shortly after noon, the calm of the day is broken as general quarters sound. In a deliberate and unprovoked action, 3 North Vietnam PT boats unleash a torpedo attack against the Maddox.
La version officielle de l'incident du golfe de Tonkin était un mensonge.
The destroyer was carrying out a mission of patrol in those waters, in international waters. When it was attacked,
Les médias l'ont rapidement accepté comme vérité absolue. Et le refus de la presse de douter de cette version officielle a permis très facilement au Congrès d'adopter la résolution du golfe de Tonkin, qui était cruciale pour l'engagement dans la guerre du Vietnam.
Well, I think it's a very clear demonstration of the unity of the country behind the policies that are being followed by the President in South Vietnam, and more specifically of the action that was taken in response to the attack upon our destroyers.
À ce moment-là, les faits étaient secondaires. Dans le cadre de la couverture du conflit par le Washington Post, je me suis demandé, 30 ans après la fin de la guerre, si le quotidien s'était rétracté à propos des informations sur les incidents du golfe de Tonkin. J'ai réussi à joindre Murray Marder, le correspondant en chef diplomatique du journal à l'époque. Je lui ai demandé si le Washington Post s'était rétracté depuis ses articles fallacieux sur le golfe de Tonkin. Il m'a assuré que cela ne s'était jamais produit. Je lui ai demandé pourquoi. Il m'a expliqué que si les médias s'étaient rétractés à propos du golfe de Tonkin, ils auraient été obligés de le faire pour tous leurs reportages sur la guerre du Vietnam. Quelques décennies plus tard, le président George W. Bush affirmait avec une certitude absolue qu'il y avait des armes de destruction massive en Irak et que les services secrets l'avaient clairement confirmé. Mais ce n'était pas vrai.
Secretary of State Powell will present information and intelligence about Iraq's illegal weapons programs, its attempts to hide those weapons from inspectors, and its links to terrorist groups.
The failure of American news media to check government distortion reached new heights when, on the eve of war, the highly respected Secretary of State Colin Powell appeared before the United Nations to make the case that there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq.
Saddam Hussein's intentions have never changed. He is not developing the missiles for self-defense. These are missiles that Iraq wants in order to project power, to threaten, and to deliver chemical, biological, and, if we let him, nuclear warheads.
Today, Secretary of State Powell brought the United Nations Security Council the administration's best evidence so far.
Après le discours de Colin Powell aux Nations Unies, la presse américaine a applaudi avec grand enthousiasme.
Did Colin Powell close the deal today in your mind for anyone who has yet objectively to make up their mind?
I think for anybody who analyzes the situation, he has closed the deal.
This irrefutable, undeniable, incontrovertible evidence today, Colin Powell brilliantly delivered that smoking gun today. Colin Powell is outstanding today. I mean, it was lockstep. It was so compelling. I don't see how anybody at this point cannot support this effort.
He made a wonderful presentation. I thought he made a great case for the purpose of disarmament. It was devastating. I mean, and overwhelming abundance of the evidence. Point after point after point. He just flooded the terrain with data. It's the end of the argument phase. America has made its case.
The Powell speech has moved the ball.
I think case is closed.
À l'époque, il était possible d'analyser et de démystifier ce qu'il disait.
Whereas the British press and other international news sources immediately raised legitimate questions about the accuracy of Powell's presentation. The major U.S. news media were virtually silent about the factual basis of his claims, and near unanimous in their praise.
Le lendemain du discours de Colin Powell, même le New York Times, soi-disant opposé à la guerre, loue la sobriété de sa prestation et l'exposition des faits. L'un des grands mythes et une étape du cycle de la propagande de guerre consiste à revendiquer, bien après les faits, qu'on ne pouvait pas savoir à l'époque que les officiels américains nous mentaient à propos de la guerre, même si on le savait déjà à l'époque et que beaucoup de gens le disaient, surtout ceux qui n'étaient pas admis sur la plupart des chaînes.
One such critical voice belonged to MSNBC's Phil Donahue, one of the few mainstream media commentators who consistently challenged the official storyline coming out of Washington.
You know, we're all now, everybody's righteous. What a terrible Hitler this is. We were mute when he was doing that. He was our SOB. Absolutely. And now we're sending our sons and daughters to war to fix that mistake. Doesn't seem fair to me.
Despite being the highest-rated program on MSNBC, Donahue's show was abruptly canceled by the network just 3 weeks before the start of the war.
Sur MSNBC, une chaîne d'information en continu sur le câble, Phil Donahue était contre la guerre. Dans une fuite à la presse, le document sur l'annulation de l'émission de Donahue est très explicite. Nous ne voulons pas qu'il soit une personnalité de NBC alors que le pays part en guerre. Ce type laisse parler les opposants à la guerre sur notre chaîne.
The American people need to know there is no just cause for this war.
But there's no